Hello, students. Welcome back with a new video, a new tutorial from a new chapter, chapter number 15, the last chapter from your book, part 3rd of History, Framing the Constitution. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about the making of the Constitution. So, the Constitution of India, also known as Bharatiya Samvidhan, is the supreme law of India. The document lays down the framework demarcating fundamental political code, structure, procedures, powers, and duties of government, institutions, and sets out fundamental rights, directive principles, and the duties of citizens. It is the longest written constitution of any country on the earth. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, chairman of the drafting committee, is widely considered to be its chief architect and is also called as the father of Indian constitution. The Constitution of India imparts constitutional supremacy since it was created by constituent assembly rather than the parliament and was adopted by its people with a declaration in its preamble. Parliament cannot overrule the constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Constitution of India on a 2015 postages stamps of India. It was adopted by the Constituent Assembly of India on 26 November 1949 and became effective on 26 January 1950. Why this wait for 2 months? Yes, we already have read about the Purn Swaraj or complete independence that was declared by the Indian leaders in the Congress session of Lahore. And the first complete independence by the national leaders of our country was celebrated on 26 January 1930. That is the reason our leaders waited for 2 months and 26 January was decided as the Republic Day of our country. The Constitution replaced the Government of India Act 1935 as the country's fundamental governing document, and the Dominion of India became the Republic of India. To ensure the constitutional amendments, its framers repealed prior acts of the British Parliament in Article 395. India celebrates its constitution on 26 January every year as the Republic Day. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. In 1928, the All Parties Conference convened a committee in Lucknow to prepare the Constitution of India, which was known as the Nehru Report, which was actually presented by Pandit Motilal Nehru. Most of the colonial India was under British rule from 1857 to 1947. From 1947 to 1950, the same legislation continued to be implemented as India was a dominion of Britain for these 3 years. As each princely state was convinced by Sardar Patel and V.P. Menon to sign the Articles of Integration with India and to make India a unite country, and the British government continued to be responsible for the external security of the country. Thus, the Constitution of India repealed the Indian Independence Act 1947 and Government of India Act 1935 when it became effective on 26 January 1950. India ceased to be a dominion of the British Crown and became a sovereign democratic republic with a constitution. Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 60, 324, 366, 367, 379, 380, 388, 391, 392, 393, and 394 of the Constitution came into force on 26 November 1949, and the remaining articles became effective on 26 January 1950. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the chairman of the drafting committee, presented the final draft of the Indian Constitution to Constituent Assembly, and the President of Rajendra Prasad, President of the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, on 25 November 1949. The Constitution was drawn from a number of sources. Mindful of India's needs and conditions, its framers borrowed features of previous legislation such as the Government of India Act 1858, the Indian Councils Act of 1861, 1892, and 1909, the Government of India Act 1919 and 1935, and the Indian Independence Act 1947. The latter, which led to the creation of India and Pakistan, divided the former Constituent Assembly in two. Each assembly had a sovereign power to draft and enact a new constitution for the separate states, that is, India and Pakistan. The vision of the constitution, if we talk about the inception of the Indian Constitution in 1950, was a significant event not only in the political history of India but also in the history of social justice and human rights. Basically, what is the meaning of the vision of the Constitution? So, it was actually the outlook of the Indian Constitution by the Indian leaders. How would be the Indian Constitution? What would be the format of Indian Constitution? At the same time, it has opened up new avenues of human welfare and development in the Indian subcontinent by providing equal rights and privileges to the citizens at large. The Constitution of Independent India was meant more than a mere legal manuscript that likely to structure the norms of governing as well as define the functions of various key institutions and political actors for the whole society in general and underprivileged sections in particular. That means this vision was guaranteeing the safeguarding of the rights and privileges not only to the general sections but also to the backward and underprivileged sections of society. The latter were exploited in multiple ways over the centuries, owing to the dominant social order of Hindu society, and perhaps this is why they had a lot of expectations from the newly adopted legal document. India gained the status of free and sovereign in August 15, 1947, after a long struggle and countless sacrifices. It adopted constitution on November 26, 1949, which came in enforcement on January 26, 1950. It is often considered as one of the gigantic constitutions in the world which establishes a democratic state. The inception of the Indian Constitution in 1950 was a significant event not only in the political history of India but also in the history of social justice and human rights. At the same time, it has opened up new avenues of human welfare and development in the Indian subcontinent by providing equal rights and privileges to the citizens of our country. So, here is something very much significant about Dr. V.R. Ambedkar's vision of social justice in Indian Constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chief draftsman of the Indian Constitution, played a significant part in the process of constitution making, as we know that he was the chairman of the drafting committee. He raised the voices of those who had been long remained unheard and had an intense commitment for the social cause and upliftment of deprived and downtrodden sections of society. Indian constitution does incorporate the social and political philosophy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, which is most noticeably evident in the various provisions of the constitution. The preamble, part 3rd, part 4th, and part 16, among others, are determined to establish a just society by upholding the concepts of liberty, equality, fraternity, and safeguarding the unity of the country. As argued earlier, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar gave much priority to the principles of equality, liberty, and fraternity. For him, it is necessary to ensure equality in our social and economic life at the earliest possible to solve the problem of Hindu society and the basic problems of untouchability. And fraternity meant a sense of common brotherhood of all Indians.